My name's Elias. I'm 34 now, and for the past decade, I've been the family's unofficial safety net. You know how there's always that one person in the family? The one who steps in when the bills don't get paid, the one who loans out money that never makes its way back, who picks up the tab without a word and makes sure nobody ends up sleeping in their car? Yeah, that's been me. I never really complained. For a long time, I figured that's just what you do when you care about your people. You step up, no questions asked. You carry the weight if someone else can't. Coming from a background where money was tight and struggle was normal, I promised myself that once I got on solid ground, I'd make sure my family didn't have to go through what I did. But recently, I've come to a tough realization. There's a line between being generous and being taken advantage of, and this year, on my birthday, that line got drawn with a bright red marker. I had planned something simple but meaningful. Nothing flashy. Just a cozy evening with the people I care about, good food, a few laughs, and a break from the chaos of daily life. I booked a private room at this nice little spot not far from where most of us live. It wasn't fancy, but it had that special feel. I paid the $400 non-refundable fee ahead of time to lock it in. Wanted to make it easy, you know? Close enough so no one could say the drive was too far. I sent out invites through a calendar link, emailed it, texted it. Everyone got it: my mom, dad, my older sister Naomi and her husband Victor, my younger brother Miles, and even cousin Lena and her boyfriend. They somehow make it to every family gathering, even though they never really host or give back. I didn't just send the invite once either. I followed up a week before, then again 2 days out, just to keep it fresh on everyone's radar. When the day came, I was actually excited. I wore the blazer Mom gave me for Christmas, showed up early, made sure the staff had the cake ready. It all felt right. I sat down and waited. And waited. At first, I didn't think much of it. My family's got a habit of running late. I figured traffic maybe, or one of the kids had a meltdown or something. I ordered a drink, scrolled through my phone, and smiled thinking they'd show up in a whirlwind of chaos, full of hugs and apologies. But then 30 minutes rolled by. Then 45. Still no one. I sent a message to the family group chat. Hey, y'all good? I'm here whenever you are. No response. After an hour, something started to knot up in my chest. Not quite anger. More like embarrassment. That quiet kind of shame that creeps up on you when you're trying to pretend everything's okay. I looked around the empty room. Table all set, candles flickering, silverware untouched. The waiter came over with that kind of soft, apologetic smile you give someone when you don't want to add to their disappointment. Asked if I wanted to go ahead and order. I told him I'd give it 10 more minutes. Right then, my phone buzzed. Instagram notification. I opened it and my Victorac dropped. A new post from Naomi. It was a group photo. Everyone was there. At a steakhouse. Not just her and Victor, but the whole crew. Mom. Dad. Miles. Lena. Even Lena's boyfriend, grinning like he just won the lottery. The caption read, Family Night. Grateful for the real ones. #blessed. It felt like getting punched in the gut. I just sat there, staring at the screen. None of it made sense. I checked the comments, hoping maybe there was some explanation. My aunt had replied, looks like so much fun. Missing Elias. And then I saw Naomi's response. He had his own plans tonight, I think. My own plans? My plans were to be sitting right there with them. At that very table I'd reserved. It didn't even hit me as sadness at first. It was numbness. Pure shock. And then came the sick feeling. That crawling nausea that starts in your chest and spreads. I didn't reply. Didn't text anyone. Didn't make a scene. I just stood up, gave the waiter a tip bigger than the drink I barely touched, and walked out with my hands trembling. The drive home was quiet except for my thoughts running wild. At first it was confusion. Then humiliation. And eventually something else: clarity. This wasn't a mix-up. This wasn't someone forgetting or misreading a calendar. This was intentional. And the worst part? It wasn't the first time. I thought about last Christmas when they all forgot to tell me the dinner had moved to Miles's place. I remembered how I'm always the last one tagged, if I'm tagged at all, in the family group chat. I thought back to Naomi's bridal shower 5 years ago when she gave a long thank you speech and somehow skipped over me even though I'd paid for the cake and had those Cuz Victor decorations made. I told myself they just forgot. That people get busy. But this? This wasn't forgetfulness. This was exclusion, dressed up in expensive steaks and fake smiles for Instagram. And I started thinking about all the times I'd stepped up for them over the years. The $500 I send Mom every month to help with rent at that senior apartment she loves. The way Dad hasn't paid his own car insurance since 2018 because I took it over when he got laid off and said, don't worry, I got you. Just pay me back when you're back on your feet. Spoiler, he never did. Naomi and Victor's wedding photographer? That was on me. Miles's security deposit when he moved out to Atlanta? Me again. Lena's emergency dental bill? Yup, me. I never kept score. Never threw it in anyone's face. I just figured when the time came, they'd show up for me too. Especially on something as simple as my birthday. When I finally got home, I sat in the dark. Not crying. Couldn't even if I tried. I just kept refreshing that post, watching the likes climb higher like the universe itself was confirming what I didn't want to believe, that to the people I'd always put first, I was invisible. I could have said something petty. Could have called, demanded to know why. But I didn't. Instead, I did something else. So I opened up my banking app. First thing I did? Canceled Mom's rent transfer. That evictoratic payment? Gone. Her building would probably send her a notice in a few days. Next up, Dad's car insurance. That monthly autopay I'd set up years ago? I shut that off too. If he didn't act fast, his policy would lapse. I kept going line by line. Every little thing I'd been covering without a word. Every quiet transaction, every behind-the-scenes favor that had become just part of my routine. I turned them all off, one by one. Then, just to put a little spotlight on it, not out of spite, but out of truth, I posted an Instagram story. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. Just a photo of the untouched birthday cake sitting there alone on the table. Caption? Simple reminder, I'm the one who pays Mom's rent and Dad's car insurance. No names, no tags, no hashtags, just facts. And I know they saw it, because the next morning my phone practically caught fire. Missed calls from Mom, a text from Dad, everything okay? Even Miles chimed in. Dude, Naomi said you're being dramatic. We didn't think you'd care. And of course, Naomi couldn't help herself. She wrote, wow, if you had a problem, you could have just said something. No need to air family stuff like that, right? I was the one airing dirty laundry, not the ones who skipped out on my birthday to have a family night I wasn't even invited to. But I didn't respond, not to a single one of them. I read every message, let every call ring through, stayed silent. Truth is, I didn't even know what I wanted from them. An apology? A reason? Maybe I just needed them to sit in that silence for once. To feel what it's like when I'm not the one showing up. When I stop being the fallback. Let the rent reminders stack up. Let the utilities go unpaid. Let them wonder for a second if the guy they've taken for granted had finally had enough. And honestly, that was just the beginning. I didn't think it would hit them so fast or that it would hit that hard. But by midday, Mom had already called 4 times. Her last voicemail was weirdly upbeat, like she was trying to play it cool. Hey honey, not sure if you saw my message earlier. Just wanted to check in. I think something strange happened with the rent this month. Maybe a glitch or something? Anyway, love you. Call me. A glitch. Sure. Because cutting off the financial lifeline you've depended on for years must be a tech issue, not a long overdue wake-up call. Then came Dad's text, got a notice about the insurance. You forget to update the card or something? Looks like it didn't go through. Hit me back when you can. Like it was an honest mistake. Like I hadn't been keeping them afloat for years. Like I was the one who dropped the ball, not the one who's been carrying the team the whole damn time. And then surprise, surprise, Naomi. Her first message came in hot. Seriously, Elias? You're embarrassing yourself. We didn't leave you out. We just wanted a chill dinner. You're taking it way too personally. When I didn't bite, she tried again an hour later. You could have just said you felt left out. No need to stress out Mom and Dad like this. I sat there staring at that one for a while. And it wasn't even the gaslighting that got me. It was the switch up, the way she flipped so fast from mocking me to blaming me for their mess. Like I was the one who created the problem just by reacting to the pain they caused. But this wasn't about feelings. It was about a choice. A clear one. They didn't forget to include me. They didn't assume I wouldn't mind. They knew what they were doing. And that was what hurt them most. Still, I didn't respond. Not because I had nothing to say. I had too much to say. And none of it would have fixed the root issue. Because when it came down to it, they didn't care about me. They cared about what I could do for them. The next few days? Dead quiet. Painfully quiet. No new posts from Naomi. No more calls from Mom. Just silence. But on the 4th day, Miles showed up at my door. No warning. No heads up. I opened it and there he was, standing on my front porch like he was about to ask for a tool or something. Hoodie on, hands jammed into his pockets, that awkward half smile on his face. Hey man, he said, like everything was normal. I leaned on the doorframe. Didn't know you were in town. Yeah, he said. Drove up. Wanted to talk. In person. I stepped aside. Let him in. He walked in like nothing had changed. Like we were still kids. Like he hadn't completely ghosted me on my birthday and watched it all go down in the group chat without saying a damn thing. He dropped onto the couch, gave the cushion next to him a pat. You mad? That question sparked something in me. I didn't sit down. Mad? I repeated. No. I was humiliated. Big difference. He raised his hands in that classic don't shoot shrug. All right, fair. But come on. You really think it was like a big conspiracy or something? We were just trying to have a chill dinner. Nobody meant to hurt you. I walked into the kitchen and grabbed a glass of water, more for the distraction than the drink. I stood there, staring out the window for a second before turning around to face him. Miles, I wasn't invited. He squinted a little like he didn't want to believe it. That's not true. Then why, I asked, didn't anyone say anything when I sent the invites? Why didn't anyone text me back when I messaged from the restaurant? Why did Naomi say I had other plans? You knew where I was. I was alone in a private room and you guys were out taking selfies like I didn't exist. He dropped his gaze and rubbed at his jaw. We didn't think you'd care, man. You always seem so. I don't know. Self-sufficient. I let out a short, bitter laugh. You mean because I foot the bill for everything? Because I never asked for anything back? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. Yeah, I said, nodding. That's what I thought. He looked uncomfortable, like he knew he was standing on shaky ground. Look, he said, Mom and Dad are freaking out. They're saying the rent didn't go through. Dad's all worried about the car now. I mean, could you maybe just give them a heads up next time before you do something like this? I walked over slowly and set my glass down on the coffee table. Miles, I said, my voice steady, I've been giving them heads ups for years. Every single month. They just came in the form of quiet support. No speeches. No complaints. No credit. Just me handling things. I looked him in the eye. You don't get to suddenly care now that the silence is loud enough for you to hear. He stood up, clearly frustrated. So what, you're just cutting them off now? You think this is helping? All you're doing is making life harder for everybody. I didn't flinch. No, I said calmly. You did that when you all decided I wasn't family enough to sit at the damn table. He stared at me for a long time like he was trying to come up with something, anything, that would make it worse. But nothing came out. Finally, he muttered, I should go. I nodded once, walked over to the door, and opened it. He hesitated in the doorway and turned back. This feels petty, Elias. I looked at him. Then maybe you've forgotten what being left out feels like. And I closed the door. Locked it. I stood there for a long moment, hands still resting on the knob, heart pounding, not from the argument, but from the sheer relief of finally saying it all out loud. I'd spent so many years biting my tongue, telling myself to take the high road, convincing myself that being the bigger person meant swallowing the pain, that I didn't need acknowledgement, didn't need to feel seen. But the truth is I did. I needed to matter, not because of what I gave or what I paid for or what I fixed, but for who I was. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't going to apologize for that. The fallout hadn't even properly started. Mom was still pretending like she didn't understand what was going on. Dad, I'm sure, was blaming some random expired card or technical glitch. And Naomi? She'd go from smug to sulking the second her next mani-pedi got delayed because Dad didn't send her Venmo fast enough. I could already feel the storm coming. But this time I wasn't afraid of it. It took exactly 5 days for the consequences to catch up. 5 days of silence. 5 days of no payments, no reminders, no fixes from me. 5 days of them realizing that maybe, just maybe, I was the glue they'd been ignoring. On the 6th morning, I woke up to a voicemail from Mom. This one didn't have that fake cheery tone. Her voice was tight, uneasy, the panic barely hidden under the surface. Elias, I don't know what's going on with you, but I just got a notice from the building manager. He says the rent still hasn't come through, and if it's not resolved by Friday, they're going to start the eviction process. I don't understand. Why would you let that happen? Please call me. I played it twice. First just to hear it, then again to feel it. Not once did she say, I'm sorry. Not once did she say, we missed you. No acknowledgement of the birthday dinner. No mention of me. Just the rent. 2 hours later, I got a text from Dad. His tone? Classic passive-aggressive. Hey kiddo, got a letter from the insurance company. Says the car's not covered anymore. You must have changed banks or something. Would have been nice to get a heads up. Anyway, I'm headed to the shop today, so let me know when it's fixed. When it's fixed. Like it was just a little oversight. Like I'd come rushing back the moment they noticed. Not if I could help. Not even should I. Just the assumption that I'd resume my role once I'd made my little point. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the Notes app on my phone and started typing. A list. Every expense I'd covered over the past 3 years. Rent. Insurance. prescription refills, utility bills, wedding gifts, emergency cash, surprise birthday dinners for them. By the time I was done, the total was over $42,000. Give or take. I wasn't planning to send it. I didn't need to. Just seeing it written out was enough. Proof for myself that I wasn't crazy. That I hadn't imagined how much I'd carried. Because they clearly had. The turning point came the following Saturday. I was home halfway through replying to work emails when the doorbell rang. I checked the camera feed. Naomi. Hair freshly styled, sunglasses on, holding a decorative tin filled with what looked like store-bought cupcakes, trying to pass as thoughtful. I almost didn't answer. But some part of me needed to see what she'd say face to face. I cracked the door open. She smiled, that performative kind of smile she always used when she wanted something. Hey. Thought I'd drop by. Brought cupcakes. I didn't reach for them. Why? Her smile wavered. Because it's your birthday week. Well, it was. And I know things got a little weird. I leaned against the doorframe. Weird. She let out this exaggerated sigh, like I was being unreasonable. Okay. Tense. But you're kind of the one who made it tense, Elias. That post blew up the group chat. I raised an eyebrow. I didn't say anything in the group chat. You know what I mean, she said, brushing past me like she owned the place and walking into the living room. You posted that whole thing about mom's rent and dad's insurance, and now everyone's freaking out. They think you're cutting them off. I closed the door behind her and turned around slowly. I never said I was cutting anyone off. But you did. She planted the cupcake tin on my coffee table like it was some kind of peace offering. With the rent, the insurance, everything. And it's not just the money. It's how you did it. You didn't say anything. You didn't talk to us. I walked past her, sat down across the room and looked her square in the eye. Naomi, I said quietly. Did you talk to me before you planned a dinner across town with everyone but me? Did you even consider how that would feel? She blinked. It wasn't my dinner. Lena picked the place. I laughed. Dry and empty. Come on. You tagged everyone. You posted the picture. You left a comment saying I had my own plans. That wasn't some misunderstanding. That was the message. You just didn't expect me to finally hear it. Her face hardened. That kind of defensive shift you can see coming before the words even land. This is exactly what I mean, she snapped. You're being dramatic. She crossed her arms. We didn't think you'd care. You're always off doing your own thing. You never ask for help. You act like you're better than us. I stood up. Calm, steady. Not angry, just done. No, I said. I act like someone with boundaries. I took a breath and let it out slow. And yeah, I don't ask for things, not because I don't need anything, but because I learned a long time ago that asking doesn't work in this family unless you've got some kind of guilt card to cash in. But I do show up. I pay. I support. I cover what nobody else will. I stepped closer. And in return, I get left behind the camera. Treated like a footnote in a story I keep writing checks for. She set the cupcake tin down on the coffee table and crossed her arms tighter. So what now? You want us to beg? You want an apology? I picked up the tin, held it for a second, then handed it back to her. No. I just want honesty. I looked her square in the eyes. If I'm not really part of this family, if that's how you see it, then say that. But don't smile at me in person and pretend I just vanished on my birthday. Don't take my money and then act like my absence doesn't matter. I took a step back. You want things to go back to normal? That was never normal. Her cheeks flushed red. She wasn't used to pushback. Not from me. Mom's scared, she said, her voice rising. She thinks she's going to lose her apartment. Dad's car isn't insured. You're putting them in danger over hurt feelings. No, I said, quiet but clear. They put themselves in danger when they built their lives around a person they didn't actually value. I'm just stepping away from a role they assigned me without asking. She didn't respond right away. Just stood there, stunned, like she couldn't believe I was actually drawing a line. Finally, she walked toward the door, stopped in the frame, and turned back. I hope this is worth it, she said. I hope it makes you think, I replied. And then she left. I locked the door behind her. Just stood there for a minute with my hands still on the knob, my heart racing, not from the confrontation, but from the weight of finally standing up for myself. I'd spent years biting my tongue, trying to be the bigger person, telling myself I didn't need thanks or recognition. But I did. I needed to matter. Not just for what I gave, but for who I was. And for once, I wasn't going to feel bad about expecting that. The fallout didn't take long. 2 days later, Mom called. She was crying. Not apologizing, just panicking. I don't know what we're supposed to do, she said through sobs. They said we have until Friday or they'll start the process. Why are you doing this, Elias? I almost picked up. I really did. But instead, I sat down and started writing. Something clear, something honest, something I'd send when the dust finally settled if it ever did. 7 days went by before I hit send. A full week of silence. No texts answered, no calls returned. A group chat that went so quiet you'd think someone had died. But no one had. They just lost their free ride and were starting to realize it. That week, Mom texted 5 times in one day. Once to beg, once to guilt trip, and 3 more times to remind me she was getting older and needed stability. Not one mention of the birthday or the dinner. Just the same old cycle of expectations, only this time with a little more panic baked in. Dad left a voicemail later that afternoon, and this one actually made me sit down. Elias, I don't know what happened. I know we've made mistakes, your mother, your sister, me too, but this insurance thing is serious. If something happens and I'm not covered, please, son, don't make us pay for something Naomi did. That one landed differently. Not because of the guilt, God knows I'd heard plenty of that, but because of the honesty buried inside it. For the first time, he admitted someone else had done wrong, and that I wasn't the one to blame. That was new. Still, it didn't erase the years he'd let this happen. He may not have started it, but he let it grow. Let Naomi run the show. Stayed quiet while I handled everything. And silence, well, that's just another form of complicity. So I pulled out my phone, opened up that notes app where I'd been keeping track, and I wrote the message. The one I knew had to be said. No emotion. No anger. Just the truth. Hi everyone. I wanted to clear a few things up since there's clearly confusion. I didn't cut anyone off. I simply stopped doing things I was never thanked for in the first place. The rent, the insurance, the bills. I did those things out of love because I wanted to help. But I've come to understand that what I gave wasn't appreciated, it was just expected. On my birthday, I sat alone at a restaurant I paid for. Not one of you showed. Not one text. Not even a call. You all had a separate dinner and posted it like I didn't exist. That wasn't a mistake. That was a message. And I heard it loud and clear. So here's where I'm at. I won't keep paying for people who don't treat me like family. If that changes, I'm open to having a real conversation. But until then, I'm choosing to show up for the people who actually show up for me, not just my wallet. Elias. And I sent it. No fluff. No room for confusion. Just facts. I watched the scene by icons light up in the family group chat one by one. Naomi read it first. Then Lena. Then Mom. Then Dad. And then came the responses. Naomi fired back almost instantly. Wow. Can't believe you'd air all this in front of everyone. Way to make us all feel like trash. I left it on read. A minute later, Mom followed up. I understand you're hurt, but don't punish the whole family over one night. We love you. We've always loved you. That one stung a little, because technically she wasn't wrong. But loving someone while constantly taking from them? That's not love. That's ownership. Then Lena jumped in. I didn't even know it was your birthday dinner. Naomi just said you were doing your own thing. Don't drag me into this. Classic Lena. First to show up for a free meal, last to take responsibility. Dad didn't reply in the chat, but a couple hours later, he sent me a private message. I messed up. You've done more for this family than any of us ever acknowledged. I let your sister take the lead because it was easier than dealing with it myself. I should have stepped in a long time ago. You didn't deserve what happened. If you're open to it, I'd like to talk. Just us. And that one actually surprised me. I didn't respond right away. I let a few days go by. Not to be petty, but just to see what life looked like without me. Mom started posting those classic passive-aggressive Facebook statuses. You know the kind. Family isn't always blood. Or, some people only do nice things so they can throw it in your face later. Naomi doubled down on Instagram, filling her story with photos of her chosen family dinners. Her and her friends at some trendy spot, captioned with, "At least these people show up." Lena went radio silent. Honestly, that was probably the best move she could make. And Miles? He actually texted me. Just wanted to say I get it now. I thought you were being dramatic, but yeah, that was low. If you ever want to hang out, just us, I'm down. No pressure. I stared at that message longer than I care to admit. Miles had always floated in the middle. Too quiet to back me up, too tied to Naomi to push back. But maybe now, he was finally seeing things the way I did. Still, I didn't reply. Not yet. Couple more weeks went by. Mom missed her rent deadline. I knew because her building accidentally sent me the overdue notice. I was still listed as her emergency contact. I didn't call. I didn't pay. She figured it out eventually. Dad missed his DMV renewal because his lapsed insurance didn't register in their system. He paid out of pocket this time. How do I know? He updated his policy himself for the first time in 6 years without asking me. That was new. Things were shifting. Then one Saturday morning, I heard a knock at the door. No text, no warning. It was Dad. He was standing on my porch holding 2 coffees. He looked older, more tired, his face a little softer around the eyes, more worn in than I remembered. I opened the door slow. "You drove all the way up here?" I asked. He held out one of the cups. "Didn't think you'd pick up if I called." I stepped aside and let him in. We sat for a while, just sipping coffee, watching kids ride their bikes down the street like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. Felt normal until he spoke. "I read your message. A few times," he said. "Think I needed to see it in black and white." He paused. I didn't realize how blind I'd been. I didn't say anything, just waited. I let Naomi do most of the talking. She's always been loud. You've always been the quiet one. And I guess I just let her fill the space. I nodded, slowly. She didn't just fill the space, Dad. She used it. Weaponized it. He winced. "Yeah, she did." Another pause. "I'm not here asking for anything," he added quickly. "I came because I wanted to apologize. Not because I'm losing something, but because I already lost something." He looked at me. "You. And I don't want to keep doing that." That hit different. It was the first time I'd ever heard a real apology from him that didn't come with a price tag attached. No conditions. No blame. Just a man owning what he'd missed. I set my cup down. "Thank you," I said. "That means more than you probably realize." He nodded. "I'm not perfect," he said. "But I'm learning. And I hope someday the rest of them start learning too." After he left, I just sat there for a while, letting everything settle. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. Just tired. Tired of always being the one keeping the engine running while everybody else rode in the passenger seat, taking naps and changing the radio station. But now they were finally getting a look at the road without me behind the wheel. Weeks turned into months. Naomi sent me a long email, half apology, half finger-pointing. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her. I just didn't trust her. Not yet. Mom called a few more times. Each one a little softer than the last. A little more like the woman I grew up with. I picked up the last one. We talked. About nothing. About everything. She didn't ask for help. I didn't offer. And somehow that made it the first real conversation we'd had in years. Miles started dropping by more often. One weekend, he invited me over to his new place, paid for on his own, which he was proud of. Rightfully so. We sat on his lumpy couch, drinking cheap beer and watching the game like we used to. No lectures. No guilt trips. Just brothers, finally figuring out how to show up for each other. I didn't go back to paying their bills. But I did start building something else. Boundaries. And strangely enough, they started respecting them. Some days were awkward. Some were healing. But at least it was real now. And on my next birthday, I didn't make a reservation. I didn't send out invites. I didn't put down a deposit or organize a damn thing. Instead, I waited. I let the people who claimed to love me show what they were willing to bring to the table. And for the first time in my life, they actually showed up.